We get these messages all the time from people who are like, both of you are so loving, even though we have different beliefs in you. And we always are saying, choose love over hate. Someone can totally hate us for what we stand for, but we're still going to choose to love them.
And I would say the two of you will be so successful because people want a great business. They want to make a ton of money and they forget that we're all human at the core.
It doesn't matter who you think you are. And this is going to be a little controversial, but if people aren't seeing you that way, it's really important for you to open your eyes and realize, why aren't they? Like, I think that I'm so nice, but clearly there is a disconnect in how I'm presenting. So maybe I should clean that up.
Mic drop. I want to make sure people really caught that. People think, well, I know who I am, and that's all that matters. Nope. In the real effing world, what matters if you want to get somewhere is how people perceive you. Where's my responsibility in that?
Welcome, everybody, to the Chris Harder Show, where we are making you unapologetic about your pursuit of success, knowing that when good people like you make good money, they can then do great things. My name is Chris Harder, and several times per week, I will bring you epic guests, solo episodes, and every single tool, trick, and skill set you need to grow your business, grow your money mindset, and to grow your wealth to levels that you have never reached before. I've ended up in a unique place in life where I've got the experience, the connections, and all of the secrets that it takes to be successful. And I'm lifting the curtain to reveal it all to you in an effort to help put you in a position of abundance so great that you can then be as generous as possible. So let's lock arms and let's get started.
Julie, welcome back on the show. We have you on the Earn Your Happy podcast and the Chris Harder Show. I'm excited we get to interview you together again.
It's almost like you've become our resident psychedelic expert at this point. Right? It's been 6 months since you've been on the show. And it's like, oh, let's check in and see what psychedelics could do for us 6 months later now. No, but all joking aside, in the past 6 months, I know you've been working really hard on your business because you're not just a psychedelic expert, but you're an entrepreneur. So kind of paint the picture for us. In the past 6 months, what's changed in your business? What are some wins? What's given you some momentum? Kind of get us up to speed.
What's changed is that I'm having more open and honest conversations. I feel because you two were able to facilitate a very open and destigmatizing conversation around psychedelics. So people who may have been curious or were hearing it for the first time weren't scared. They weren't freaked out. They were really open to what it could do for them.
Interesting.
And I've really enjoyed getting to speak to all those people in the DMs and having them sign up for programs. And it just makes my heart so happy because truly my intention in being here and speaking with you guys is to bring the power of microdosing to 1 million people.
So wait, This is really cool. I want to expand on what you just said without giving away a DM or something, obviously. You said you've been having way more open conversations. Give us an example.
Oh, the one that comes to mind is a woman reached out to me on behalf of her husband, who is actually a physician, an ER physician, and he was looking for a way to manage his ADHD symptoms in a different way because for many people who are on Adderall, they know that that can lead to anger. It can lead to dipping lower than you felt in kind of the half-life off period. It can make you snappy, and honestly, for a lot of people, it can become a bit of a crutch, and he wanted to be able to get off of that. And so that was a conversation where I thought, this is a man who's out there saving lives. Let's help him in a way that is clean, clear, sustainable, and a true solution to ADHD versus just management.
And is it working for him?
Yes.
See, this is why we want to have these conversations. I would have never known that as a solution to Adderall, that a doctor would come and say, hey, I need a solution. I don't like what Adderall does. Let me try this, and that it's working. And these are the kind of conversations I think that make people like me that know very little about this say, maybe there's something here.
So something that I have observed about you, because you've now been to our house twice for VIP weekends, and we get to spend 2 days at a time with you, which is so much fun. And then I get to go see what changes kind of in your life and in your business. And it's so crazy because I already feel such a difference in you, in your presence, in how you show up, and on social as well, which I'm so excited about. And things take time. Things take time to integrate and move through what you learned. And something that I really observed about you the first couple days that I got to work with you is your ability to not only integrate feedback, but you would ask for it. And you ask for it in a really open way that's also, you seem happy. I know that that's that is a part of your personality is very, very bubbly and very happy. But at the same time, I know that it's not easy sometimes to get feedback. And we gave you some very real, honest feedback at the last weekend of maybe how you could be perceived or ways to up level what you're doing, because you really want to start attracting that up leveled client for yourself. So can you kind of tell me, because I think that that's a superpower, could you tell me about how you do that? Has that been something that you work on, or is that something that's just been a part of you? How do you go in there and ask, like you would ask us straightforward for the feedback? And in all honesty, I used to avoid that.
People should have this muscle. Most don't, but you do.
Well, I did used to be an attorney, and no one is sparing your feelings in that profession. But also, I truly believe and know that feedback is neutral. It doesn't mean anything about who I am. I know that I am worthy and enough, regardless of what anyone has to say, good, bad, or otherwise, about my business, right? I think it's really important for entrepreneurs to know that you are over here, your business is over here, you are not the same thing. And ultimately, you're never going to grow. And I'm also extremely careful about who I ask for feedback, because I would obviously ask you guys. You guys have a lot of the things that I would like to achieve in my life, but I'm not going to listen to, Sandra, no offense to any Sandras out there on Instagram who aren't doing what I want to do, because their 2 cents is not going to get me where I want to go.
So how did you learn that? Is that something that you just grew up with, or is this something you really had to think about?
Okay, true story. I did this personal development program when I sort of had 1 foot out and 1 foot out of the law, and then I was getting into coaching. This was pre-psychedelic facilitation, and it was an interesting program where they literally got in a circle around you and said things like "scared little girl," and it was very it was interesting. It was a little
I've
culty.
done stuff like this. Yeah, I've definitely done this.
But I was like, these are just words. This is how people are perceiving me, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you think you are. And this is going to be a little controversial, but if people aren't seeing you that way, it's really important for you to open your eyes and realize, why aren't they? I think that I'm so nice, but clearly there is a disconnect in how I'm presenting. So maybe I should clean that up.
Mic drop. I want to make sure people really caught that. And you're right. This could rub people the wrong way, but people think, well, I know who I am, and that's all that matters. Nope. In the real effing world, what matters if you want to get somewhere is how people perceive you. And you play a role in looking in the mirror and saying, okay, if I want people to perceive me a certain way and they're not, where's my responsibility in that?
I mean, Julie, you just called out one of the biggest things I feel like if they want to grow in a massive way, and I think this is how you walk into every room, if they want to grow in a massive way, it really is. I was just thinking of this for an exercise, Chris. I was like, oh my God, it takes so much courage to even implement an exercise like that, where it's here's what I think of me, but I want to know from everyone in this group, how do you perceive me? Because there's obviously something happening, or how you're showing up. And you can decide if that's a good or bad thing. The data is just data, kind of like what you said. So for the feedback is, the feedback is huge. You can take it and either integrate it because it was someone who cared about you who was giving it. What about the data that you get that doesn't feel like a fit for me, even if it's from a mentor that you feel is important, but you're deciding how you want to take it?
I have a rule of 3 for feedback. So if I hear something 3 times, then it's really important for me to sit with it and assess whether, this is perhaps true and how I'm showing up, at least, even if it's not how I'm perceiving myself. But Chris, the best thing I love about Chris is that he will throw these ideas that sometimes feel a little bit bonkers. Oh, bonkers. Bonkers.
That's our dog's name.
And I'm thinking, I have never even dreamt or conceived of that, but I take everything that Chris says and I sit with it and I try it on. And I think, is this what I want for myself? Because I appreciate the idea. We have to be living in the realm of infinite possibilities at all times, but I don't need to go implement everything. I think that shiny object syndrome, and you get derailed from really your zone of genius.
Yeah. So you being able to discern, is this big idea for me or not, is a real superpower to be able to do that. Have you found in the past that you chased anyone's shiny idea and you had to learn that, or have you always had this discernment?
The first year of my business, I cannot tell you how many iterations of coaching and niching down I went through. And it's so funny, when I got into psychedelics, I didn't want to do this as a business. I was doing it for myself to heal my anxiety and depression, but people just continually kept asking me, what are you doing? Can you help me? And it felt like the universe was sort of slapping me around. Hello, lady, this is what you're meant to be doing. And I had such a passion and drive for reading, researching, taking classes, learning more about it, that I thought, well, I'm already spending so much time doing this. I'm good at it. Clearly, I healed my own anxiety and depression. So let's go.
That's amazing. So you just mentioned you've been using microdosing for you and for your clients to heal anxiety and depression. But lately you've made a shift into using it to target high performers and helping them lead a more limitless life. So these are like two opposite ends of the spectrum. Tell us about that shift and how it can do both of those things at the same time.
So this really came about as a result of looking at all of my journals for the past 5 years. I'm a huge journaler and I have them all. And so in the beginning, it was, wow, my mind was not a fun place to be. It was so hard to get control of my thoughts. And I was really spun out by my anxiety, depression. It was extremely overwhelming. And I've been looking at my journals more recently as I integrate my microdosing protocols and larger journeys when I have facilitators take me through a larger journey, because I'm very big on facilitating and being facilitated for. And my outcomes and what I'm focusing on are just completely different. Now, at the end, I'm thinking about, okay, what does it look like to truly dream big, no guardrails, live in the land of infinite potentials, to learn to hold greater levels of joy, abundance, all that, big leap stuff. And it just came about naturally as a result of continuing to work with this. And, I realized, and Chris, this one is for you. I came up with this analogy that microdosing just for your mental health is like buying a Ferrari and only driving to the grocery store. You need to take that thing out on the track and see where it can go.
That's an amazing analogy. I freaking love that. Expand on that a little bit more for us. So what do you mean? We're like, okay, you've got this Ferrari, AKA microdosing, except you're kind of just taking it to the grocery store and back. And it was built for something more. Tell us about that.
The human brain is a supercomputer. Unfortunately, for many people, our operating system, our default operating system, lands us into OCD, anxiety, depression, sometimes addiction. And so healing the root cause of those things is just like a baseline. It's like, oh, okay, now I can have an average, normal, good existence. But who wants to wait for good? Who wants to sit in good? Like, let's get to great. I truly believe this life is limitless. I believe we were all creators of our reality, and that our reality can look however we want it to. I mean, Laura, you say it all the time, like, this is not where you saw yourself from your childhood. It's like you didn't let anything stop you. You weren't subscribed to these manuals and these paradigms. You busted them and dreamt bigger for yourself. And here you are. Everyone can do that.
That's amazing. I just want to stay on this topic for one more minute. High performers. Can you give an example of how a high performer used this to go from good to great, to really unlock that ceiling that they knew they had to bust through?
Ooh, one of my favorite examples is a structural engineer I've worked with. She actually just sent me a message and she said, I have everything I wanted a year ago. I just realized that after I microdosed this morning, and I really allowed myself to sit in that feeling. So many people are doing well, right? Like they have the career, they have the accolades, but there is an inner piece missing where it probably doesn't feel as good as they thought it was going to feel, because they're getting there with burnout, with exhaustion, with pushing themselves to their limits. And there are sneaky little ways that they are out of integrity with their values and with what they say they want. Because I think for high performers, they probably have cleaned up the bigger things, right? Like whether it be partying or scrolling actually, I don't want to say scroll. I think a lot of people scroll.
I still scroll.
But when we really clean it up and we really commit to living in our zone of excellence, and that's what's so cool about psychedelics, is it helps turn off the parts of your brain that chatter, and it helps you make new habits more easily. And so then you really can live in that zone of excellence because you're not overwhelmed and feel like you're beholden to these things that aren't serving you.
That's so cool.
Okay, so you created Living Limitless as more than just a program. So it's a high impact community for women who are already playing big, but are ready to break through their upper limits, which I can totally relate to. I feel like no matter how big I start playing, there's always something more that I'm bumping up against. So what does it look like to be a part of that space where no one can play small and you can't hide? And how does that level of accountability and expansion transform someone's life?
I was just talking to someone in MCM who's joining, and we were having a conversation. And through that conversation, I realized, this is an incubator. This is like the place where you go where you don't want to hide, right? It is only 10 women. So it is very much a space where I know what you're doing. I know what you said you were going to do. There's check-ins. There's just a different level of being seen, because it's also not like, I said this to just one person. Like I said this to a room of other women where their feedback matters to me. And that's a big piece too, right? Like coming back to this feedback, like all of these women are up to big things. And it's not ever from a place of I need to impress someone, but it's about, I want to be in the room. I want to be having the conversation. I want to, at the end of the day, I want to do it for myself, to put my head on the pillow and think, I made the most out of this life, this day that I have. And I really want to get to the end and think no regrets.
Yeah, same. I feel that. Okay, I want to know about your retreats because I know that it's one of your favorite things that you get to do. First of all, why is it one of your favorite things? What do you believe about retreats that are so impactful?
Ooh, they're one of my favorite things because in person is just different, right?
Yeah,
I believe that. I signed up for this again.
We swear by it. Like in person, it accelerates everything you do.
And it is. It's so much more accelerated transformation than any online coaching could possibly be, simply because it's a weekend of constant experience, reflection, growth, breakdown, breakthrough. I like them because I keep them small, 5 to 6 women for each retreat. And I honestly feel that is my top zone of excellence. Like when I enter the retreat space, I feel like some kind of switch gets flipped in me, and that is what I was meant to do. And it can be a lot. And people are like, how can you go and facilitate these larger journeys? Because it isn't micro, right? It isn't like 100 milligrams. It is 2 grams and above. How can you hold someone's experience during that, let alone, 6 other women? And I feel it is a gift. It is something that I don't think everyone can do, but I know that I can. And like holding that for someone and seeing them have the process and the transformation, I'm the most grateful for that.
If that sounds intimidating but interesting to somebody, walk them through like why they shouldn't be intimidated about a full immersion like that.
So there's something in the psychedelic world called set and setting. So when you control for set and setting, the environment you're in and the mindset you're in when you enter the experience, your possibility of having a bad trip is almost negligible. So everything that I do to set up the retreat is extremely intentional, from, the space itself to how I speak, what I say. It has a lot of NLP infused in it, not from a space of like manipulation, but just from wanting someone to feel comfortable and creating safety in their subconscious mind to let go. Ultimately, a bad trip is a result of someone not letting go. So when someone, says, oh, I saw something really scary and I tried to run away from it, or there was a door I wouldn't open, that is when you reach a lot of discomfort. And ultimately, just like in life, the only way out is through. So true in a trip. It's a great mirror for our experience in life. But as long as they can continue to lean into whatever comes, they will get to the other side of it and have the most amazing breakthrough.
That is wild. It's definitely something I'm so curious about and also equally like intimidated by, and I'm guessing there's probably a lot of people listening that kind of feel the same way.
Yeah, I think, different things that I've heard from people are, I almost don't want to do it because I don't want to know what's there. So, and I've heard that quite a bit actually from different people. So I'm wondering for someone like that, who's like, am I just opening something up that doesn't need to be open? Is there ways to go into something where it's more intentional? Like you're going in with an intention of wanting to just solve one thing, but maybe, is there avoiding, or is it like, it's just going to all come?
Everything's going to come out, period.
Well, I love that you said intention. Intention and integration are my 2 favorite words. It's always important to have an intention. And I do say in a journey, you are always going to get exactly what you need, even if it's not exactly what you want. I was actually just having this conversation with a friend who thinks like maybe his marriage is over. And he said he's been avoiding doing something like this because he didn't want to like be faced with that. So ultimately, if you're not ready to look at something, I would say this probably isn't for you. But I remember one of the women who came to my very first retreat had a lot of, she'd had a very sad childhood. And in that experience, she was able to go like protect herself essentially against what had happened to her as a child. And it was very healing and very like closing of the loop essentially. Mm-hmm. So what I also like to say about a journey is it's ultimately like 4 to 6 hours. If you can just let go for 4 to 6 hours, face the thing that you have been avoiding for years, for decades, it's always like, I like to execute and just do the thing, because the discomfort you're creating from not just going for it is ultimately so much larger than whatever discomfort you're going to feel from facing it and doing it.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't like the metaphor for life, period.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you create more discomfort by dragging something out and kind of barely living in it, as opposed to just facing it and walking right through it.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, I do feel like everything in psychedelics is such a metaphor for life, right? Whether it be don't avoid the discomfort, the only way out is through, have an intention. I mean, if everyone in this listening to this podcast took away nothing but that and just implemented, I'm going to have an intention before I eat my lunch to nourish myself and to notice when I feel full and respect that. If I'm going to this conversation with my mom, to just show her love and understanding, even if we have a tough relationship. Like if you just infuse intention in every part of your day, your life will change.
I love that.
Oh, Oh, it's
Such
so
good advice.
I've loved all of these wisdom nuggets that you've dropped
you got so many
as
of
well
them.
on top of that, which just makes me really think, I've never done a journey with you, but I feel like I can feel how you are and just like the love that you put into it. So I'm grateful for you.
Thank
Well,
you.
listen, if someone's curious, how should they reach out, whether it's on the microdosing side or whether it's coming to one of your retreats?
Well, if you want to just know whether microdosing is a great path for you, that's super simple. Find me on Instagram. I know that it's linked down in the show notes, and you can just DM me the word journey. You can take a quick quiz, less than a minute, and find out very honestly whether it is for you. Because there are some people where I will not work with them, not because I don't love them, but because it's just not the right fit for a variety of reasons. And you can find the pin post on my Instagram page as well with all of my upcoming retreats through 2026.
And I know it's in the show notes, but share your Instagram.
Oh, yes, Julie Cyvonne, JulieCyvonne.
I love it. All right. Any last closing words? Any last piece of advice for someone who's like on the fence about this?
I believe that if you have a pull toward plant medicine, there is a reason. I always say that, you don't decide to do it, it calls to you. I firmly believe that. It's a little bit of one of my woo things. But if this has been something on your heart, I think it's for a reason, and at least have a conversation. If not with me, like research it on your own.
I love that. Super cool. Well, I appreciate you always popping in and sharing your wisdom on this. The story about the doctor in the beginning, all of this stuff. The conversation continues to make it more approachable so that people aren't missing out on something that might really, really help their life or free them or finally get them to their goals. And it's really cool that you're willing to sit down with people and talk about it.
Well, thank you so much for having me, guys. This is amazing.
Yes, and we've linked everything up in the show notes, you guys. So all you have to do is scroll down and you can get all of her info there as well. But go follow her. And thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, guys.
You're the best.
Kaylie and Riley, we are so excited to have you on the podcast. Welcome to the Earn Your Happy podcast and the Chris Harder Show.
Chris Harder Show. I was going to say, don't leave me out. Okay, so here's where I wanted to start. You guys just wrapped up your first day of our 2-day in-person VIP weekend mastermind.
Mm-hmm.
What's your opinion of collaborating with so many other people at once?
Oh, it's the best thing ever. Like a rising tide lifts all ships. And I think that's the most powerful thing of getting in the room with game changers is I told her when we were like getting ready for this, I said, isn't it so nice to sit in a room with people where they're like, oh, okay, easy. This is how you make $1 million in a year versus sitting in rooms where people are like, oh my gosh, this is run out. This isn't, you can't do this. That's never, like, your dreams are crazy. You're just too big of a dreamer. You're too much. And it just feels really nice to be in a room with people where they're like, okay, that's your big dream. This is how you make it happen. Instead of that's your big dream and you're insane. That could never happen.
Riley, you told a really cool story in the beginning where you didn't allow yourself to dream. You didn't understand entrepreneurship. You're like, that's for other people. I just live the life I'm dealt. And now you're like in a very short amount of time, right? The past, I forgot if you said months or years, but in a very short amount of time, you've changed your whole world upside down. Would you mind sharing it? Because people get inspired by this.
Yeah, my story is pretty crazy, actually. I grew up with a lot of trauma. I'm a survivor of 10 out of 10 adverse childhood experiences. I'm a childhood sexual abuse survivor. And I'd say I spent my last 10 years doing thousands of hours of therapy and healing through different modalities. And I was a person after college. I had no family to help me out. So I slept on a broken bed for a couple years, living paycheck to paycheck, working at a group home with adolescent boys who also didn't have families. So I spent my entire holidays with them. And they'd always say, well, I have no family. And I'd say, well, I'll spend Christmas with you. And they still keep in touch with me. And they say, like, you changed my life so much. And I got sober when I was 21. I stopped drinking. I was going down the wrong path. And both my parents were alcoholics. And I just had a really rough upbringing. And I thought, I want to change my life. I want something better. So I started pouring into helping people, especially young women, to find a recovery path that works for them. And I see in the nonprofit, I did move up quite a bit and I was running campaigns on substance use prevention with a company called Shatterproof. And then I'm actually finishing my master's degree in prevention science. I have one class left. But when I met Kaylie over 3 years ago, literally first date, we're sitting on my bed and she goes, I want to be like the next Glennon Doyle and Abby Wambach. And I was like, oh my gosh, that would be the dream. Like, I love them. We listen to everything they do. And I'm so inspired by all these people. And Kaylie's like, I want a life that's more than paycheck to paycheck. Like, I want to make so much money and I want to have all these kids. And we both agreed we wanted more than 5 kids. And we were just like, I was sitting there and I'm like, on my bed, I'm like, is this possible? And I said, here, you start your journey. I'm going to stay stable. And then once I see that you succeed, maybe I'll join you in this path. So she's like, come on a model home tour with me. I said, what's that? Like, I'm like, I have no idea what real estate mortgages are. I've learned like no skills. And so then she took me on some and I started getting to know the clients. And I love people too. I'm a little more introverted, but then I caught the bug and I was like, wow, not only is it lucrative, we can make money, but there's purpose and there's mission behind what we're doing.
That's amazing.
Okay, so intro what you are both doing.
Yeah.
And you have a company called Property Wives, and it's such good branding for what you do. Love it. And I know you have a good story too where the name came from.
Yeah, actually, so the Property Wives we're a real estate team and we're wives. And we're not sister wives. We're just lesbian wives.
Wives.
That's
Yeah.
something that we
Get
sometimes
confused.
have to clarify. And when we met, we were meeting with one of her mentors and he said like, who are you? Like, tell me about you. Tell me about your dreams. And I was like, yeah, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to own all these properties. I want to own healing retreat centers. I want to help people buy and sell real estate. And I want to help people build generational wealth through real estate. It's a really important thing for me. Homeownership is one of the greatest wealth transfers in families, and we don't see it in marginalized people groups. And we're like really passionate about helping all marginalized people groups, but being part of the queer community, we are on mission right now to build the largest platform that helps queer and trans people relocate around the world safely, and do it with allies or people in the community, which allows us to not only help them on a path of homeownership, but help them on a path to safety. And safety and shelter are 2 of the basic fundamentals for all of us to survive, for all of us to thrive. And it's exciting to like help you move from like survival and paycheck to paycheck to thriving. And that's like what we want to help so many people do.
Marginalized groups have traditionally always had a very hard time breaking into homeownership. And so it makes sense why this is your mission. Would you give a little more detail around why marginalized groups have such a hard time breaking into homeownership as opposed to other groups?
Wow, that's such a good question. And I'm like, we don't have 4 hours to unpack it. So I'm trying to consolidate the Cliff Notes version. I think for one, when you're a marginalized people group, you wake up at a disadvantage fighting for a right. And in a world that's like, oh, DEI gives unqualified people positions that they didn't earn. What DEI actually did was give qualified people an opportunity to take a position they were fully qualified for. And and that's like for anyone, like racial inequality, all of the marginalized people groups, like not just queer or trans individuals, but what we're seeing specifically in the population that we help is people messaging us on TikTok and Instagram daily, like, I just got kicked out of my housing because they asked if the guy who spent the night was my boyfriend. And I said yes. And they terminated my lease and kicked me out of my home the next day. And I just got evicted because I told my landlord when they addressed me to please address me with new pronouns that I'm going by. And they evicted me the next day. And they're like, I don't know how I'm going to rent at another place now. Like, even if I move states, evictions stay on my on your record. And so if you can't rent a place and then you can't have an address to get a job and you can't get a job to pay for an address, it's just this perpetual cycle. But then I think also a lot of marginalized people groups and a lot of people in the queer and trans community do lose their families. And that's not why Riley's estranged from her family, but that is a story for a lot of people. And so there's not that familiar support. There's not that like, oh, hey, we're going to like gift you your down payment that I see in a lot of families that do help young kids get into homeownership. And I think it is just this perpetuation of like, there's so many roadblocks. And I don't know, I love the analogy of like, people say, oh, well, we all started at the same place. But if you imagine like a track and someone starting here, someone starting here, someone starting here, you might all be running the same human race, but everyone's not starting at the same place. And everyone doesn't have the same amount of hurdles they have to jump over. So if I'm running around a track and I have no hurdles to jump, I'm going to get there a lot faster than someone that has a hurdle every 30 feet to jump over. And I think marginalized people groups in general just have a lot more hurdles to jump over than those that aren't identified in a marginalized people group.
We've seen real estate skyrocket over the past 5 years, like just double, more than double. And that's probably made it even more difficult for any groups that are kind of starting from a disadvantage to break in. Because now it's hard, damn it, for anyone to break into homeownership. What are some of the things that you guys are doing to help put people into more homes?
Yeah, so I'll answer this one. I'm really passionate about this, that everyone deserves to be heard and listened to. And I've been getting, I'll say over the past 2 weeks, we've had over 2,000 followers and maybe a couple hundred messages. And I'm sick because I'm in my pregnancy right now. So I'm laying in bed and like, that's my full-time job, is responding to people. So probably 50 of those were people who are homeless. And they were like, I just have no one that will listen to me or hear out my story. And so we're actually setting up our platform so that we can monetize off of the people who do want to buy homes and the people who are going to rent. And then also be able to create resource packets for people who are at a lower socioeconomic like disadvantage, and then be able to help people and basically just meet them where they're at. Because like we've cried a lot over the past 2 weeks because we've heard some like really heartbreaking stories, and the people that are messaging us are thanking us so much just for making these videos that are educating the public. And they're like, thank you for caring about us. We get like hundreds of messages a day, just people just being like, thank you so much. And so, yeah, we originally started out in real estate. We were like, we're going to help people buy homes and we're going to list homes and sell them. And then we like launched this idea, and then we realized that a lot of people can rent, and a lot of people wanted to move to Denver to rent. And so we are now trying to make our business more of like a referral business and be able to help people get into housing and with the money that they have.
However, I do want to add, there are a lot of really cool resources. We live in Colorado, so I sell real estate in Colorado, and I'm also a licensed loan originator. And there is a program called CHAFA, which is Colorado Homebuyers Down Payment Assistance Program. And they will pay your entire down payment. So 3.5% of your loan value for you.
Regardless of size.
Up to $800,000, I believe.
That's still pretty big.
Yeah, it's a really big place. And you just have to come out of pocket $1,000 and go through their home buyer education course. So you can go through this program and we can get you into a home as long as your monthly income qualifies to pay your mortgage. After that, you get into the home, and that loan is good for 20 years. You don't have to pay it back for 20 years. Or if you refinance or you sell the home, then you would pay it back with the home's proceeds. But that's a program that we help a lot of people break into home ownership with, because it gets rid of the idea that you need 20% down to buy a house. Most first-time home buyers can qualify for a home with 3.5% down. And in Colorado, you can use the FHA first-time home buyer down payment assistance program, and you can do that. Another option is USDA loans. You can get them in more rural areas, and you can get those for 0% down as well. And you just need to pay your closing costs. We also, though, as a realtor, I can negotiate for the seller to pay your closing costs as a term of the contract, so that you're not having to pay like $8,000 to $12,000 in closing costs either. So you're truly only paying $1,000. Even if your earnest money you put down is more than that, you'll get it back at close.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. The two of you speaking up about these things being available. Nobody knows this stuff without you guys, sharing this information. And I want to tee Lori up for a question I know she's dying to ask, because you've been doing it on TikTok as of late. You're kind of brand new to TikTok.
Yeah.
And while we sat here today, you got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of new followers while we're sitting there.
Yeah.
So that's the question is, for anybody listening, I think what's been so great about getting to know you guys, just even over just this past day that we've had you at the mastermind, is you have really, you really niche down, and you're like, you know what? And, both of you have talked today so much about how some of the things that you have talked about, it's going to push a lot of people away, but it's also going to bring your ideal customer. So tell me some of the things that you think like are the reasons why you're growing on TikTok so quickly.
So I'll say that we do half funny, like comedy, and we love it. We have so much fun. Like, we love making content. We sit there and we just laugh so hard all night that our abs hurt. Like, it's so funny. And so we mix it up. We do serious content because we're addressing some serious issues. We're talking about discrimination, workplace discrimination, housing discrimination. And then we also kind of like do comedy skits to make people laugh. And we get so many messages like, thank you for making me smile. Thank you for making me laugh. And we always joke, we want to like be an opener on a comedy skit one day or something.
Shout out Chelsea Handler.
Yeah. So,
But yeah, I think the mix of like funny and that, but I think also the way algorithms work is that like the word trans is very out there right now. Like, we have an administration that just said that they are like a terrorist organization, and we're coming out saying like, no, we disagree with that. We believe that they're human beings. And when people come to us and they're like, well, like I'm cool with you too, because like you're super cool. So like, I don't care that you're gay, but I just don't understand the whole trans thing. I don't get the whole transgender thing. And our answer is, we don't either. But I don't need to get it to respect them as human beings and to honor that they are suffering in a way that I've never experienced suffering. And they were brave enough to do something about it in a world that makes them hated for it. And to me, that is something that I just admire and respect to anyone of any issue. That is like, if I can see you, that like you are suffering from an issue that you were dealt, that you had zero control over, but you didn't just sit there and suffer in it. You did something about it. Like, that should be applauded, that someone was brave enough to say like, something is wrong here for me and I'm going to do something about it. And the other thing is, people are like, oh, well, you're just gay or you're trans for attention. Like, that's something that people say all the time. It's just a phase or this. And I'm like, there has never been more negative attention than to this group of people right now. And I think the reality is, because of that, and we're standing here like, I don't care what this costs us. We are specifically like targeting you in a good way, because you are being targeted in such a negative way in every other sphere of this world currently. Like, we will stand up and say like, I stand for you. And I remember one of the books that Glennon Doyle, who's like such a inspiration to me, she was reading her daughter's a book after George Floyd, and her daughter was like, Mommy, like, would we be marching in those? And she was like, of course, sweetie. And her older daughter said, no, we wouldn't, because there's marches going on now for this same thing of racism, and we're not marching in them. And when Riley was like, we need to start speaking about this, I was kind of like, one, I'm scared that I'm going to get in trouble for violating fair housing laws, because someone's going to come out and be like, oh, you're only working with this population. Like, you're refusing to work with me. And I'm like, that's not true at all. Like, we work with all people. We work with people that vote different than us, that pray different than us, that look different than us, that are different races, that like 90% of our clientele are still straight people, because they're still the majority of the world. And I was also like, just scared selfishly. Like, I was like, that puts us in a category that is like, they have a target on their back that is so large right now in this country, and us standing for them like moves that target to our back. And we're lucky. Like, we're straight passing. We walk down a street. People aren't giving us dirty looks. They assume that we're friends. They assume that we're sisters. They assume that we're both straight women. And this population often doesn't have that privilege. Many of them in different periods, you can tell. And so they're just immediately discriminated against. And we just want to immediately like come to their defense and be like, we see you, we support you, we love you, and we want to help you find safety.
I just wanted to add one thing. Our tagline is, if you're brave enough to choose love over hate, you'll change the world. We work with everyone. Like, at the end of the day, we work with so many people that will look at us and they'll be like, I vote differently than you. And we'll say, okay, but do you respect us? Yes, I respect you. We said, we'll respect your beliefs. And then we work with them. And oftentimes they come to us later and they say, I'm so glad you loved us through this process and let us just like change our opinion on what we thought of the LGBTQ community. And we get these messages all the time from people who are like, both of you are so loving, even though we have different beliefs than you. And we always are saying choose love over hate. So we always choose love in the end. And someone can totally hate us for what we stand for, but we're still going to choose to love them.
I think what I picked up from that is if you stand up unapologetically for something, then it's easier to stand out, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what everyone's trying to do. How do I stand out? How do I get?
Yeah, that's true.
Well, stand up for something you believe in instead of just kind of getting vanilla on everything.
Yeah.
You had an interesting story that you shared today with a group. You went to show a house recently and people had a negative reaction towards you. Would you mind sharing a brief version of that story?
Yeah. Luckily it wasn't in person, so I could just hang up and be like, bye. But yeah, like as a realtor, you get lead sources, and I got one, and the woman clicked on my ad. That was a picture of me, and filled out her information to work with me. And then I gave her a call, and we talked for over 30 minutes, and it was a lovely call. And she was like, "You're so great. This was so pleasant. Thank you so much." She said, "Do you have a family?" And I said, "I do. My wife and I are expecting our first baby in December. We're so excited." And before I could even finish my sentence, she was like, "Ew, ugh, that is so disgusting. You and gay people and all of your agendas are what is wrong with this country. Like, I will not be working with you. God bless." I was like, okay, God bless you too, I guess, lady. And then she hung up. And it is interesting though, like we had one where people were just like really weird to us and rude. And like, we're not interested, and just kind of walked away at one tour. But the cool thing is I feel like those are the stories that the news wants us to hear. And my reality is, the story I want you to hear is that is 1 in a million.
Yeah.
We have
totally.
a million people that love us, that see us, that support us. And I'm really passionate about like, there is good and bad in every single thing and every single day. And every one of us could wake up and choose to only see the bad in the world because it's there. And every single one of us can wake up and choose to be the good in the world. And that adds to it. And so yeah, people can hate us. People can disagree with us. And like you said, at the end of the day, I'm just like, I'm sorry that your heart is stuck in so much hate.
And I'll say the other awesome thing I love about us is we're open to dialogue. And we love hearing people's different views and opinions. Like we never are there to shut people down. We actually both grew up in pretty conservative homes ourselves. And so I've had friends who have very different beliefs than me. I post something about trans rights. They reach out, "Well, have you thought about this? And I said, tell me what you think. I want to hear what you think, and then I'll tell you what I think." And I said, this is the problem with our country right now, is we're not having these dialogues with people.
This is true.
Like, of course, like we could be sitting here, we might have totally different political beliefs, but you respect us enough to like hear our opinion, and we respect you both for everything that you do in the world. So like, I just think that we're not as different as people think. At the end of the day, like I think a lot of people want to choose love over hate.
We all want the same things. At the end of the day, if you had a private test and said, okay, what do you want for your family? What do you want for your finances? Everybody wants the same things. And they've just done such a good job of dividing all of us and making everybody want to argue and fight and hate. And they've made it so that we don't realize that for the most part, everyone's aligned on the same outcomes that everybody wants. Yeah. And it's just gotten so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something I do when I get the chance to speak is I'll introduce myself, and then I'll say, "I would just like everyone to close their eyes for a quick minute. We'll be here for less than 60 seconds. And I just want you to imagine the person you love the most in your life. You love them enough. They've immediately already popped into your vision, in your mind. What do you want for them? I want you to imagine someone lifting them up, cheering them, supporting them when they're down, helping them up when they're out of luck, supporting them when you're gone, long after maybe you're dead, maybe you're just not in the room when they need help, and someone helping them. Doesn't that feel so good in your heart? Maybe you have a smile on your face already. And now I want you to imagine that same person you love more than anything being disrespected, being spit on, being ignored, being treated unfairly. That's gotta hurt your heart. However, when we open our eyes and we look around at the world, too many of us are forgetting that the person we see in front of us is someone's most important person in the world. And so, like, we all were taught it in kindergarten, but if only we could go back to treat others the way we want to be treated.
It's a pretty good business rule too.
Yeah.
Literally was just, I had a business question in my head and I'm like, wow, it's just so much of how we treat each other like applies to people want a great business. They want to make a ton of money and they forget that we're all human at the core. We talk about that all the time of how much our, like what we do is because of how we've viewed people and like the things we've had to learn about people and oh my gosh, like the amount of people we've had to work with different views, with different, just like how we approach things and like having to learn how to be that person. And I would say the two of you will be so successful because you are able to step into so many people's positions and shoes and understand, and being able to perceive and stand in someone's shoes is probably one of the most powerful things that you can possibly do in life, business, relationships, everything. Yeah. So do you want to leave any last words with our people?
You can follow us on TikTok and Instagram at The Property Wives, WIVES. And on our TikTok, Instagram, and website, you can find if you're a realtor, if you're an apartment locator, if you are a landlord that owns apartments all across the nation, we would love for you to apply to be a part of our community and our network so that we can have safe allies and community members there. And then also, if you are in need of our services and you want to relocate, or if you just love the mission of what we're doing and you want to go through our platform to relocate so that it can help us reallocate funds back to those who need them. And if you're a business owner, we would love to also host you on our platform because, as we talked about, so many of these people face discrimination also in the workplace, which makes it harder to afford housing. And so if you are a safe employer that would like to be advertised on our platform, we would love to work with you as well.
And that falls under the Safe Haven Homes Initiative.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm. All right, you guys, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. And if you loved this episode and know of someone else who is as successful as they are generous, please pass them on to me. It would mean the world to me if you help me get this cause and this message out to as many listeners as I can. So please, if you liked what you heard, it goes a long way if you take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review and share this with your friends. I'll be forever grateful. And until the next episode, cheers to your success.